Welcome back. I'm Marty with East Point Necropolis. Here to do another sort of a prop tutorial. We're starting on building another prop for our carnival theme for East Point Necropolis for our home haunt this year for 2025. And I am doing a clown. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is Jumbo. I just bought a cheap Spirit of Halloween costume, real cheap. You know, it's got a plastic mask and whatnot. I'll show you behind me. This is Jumbo. The material is not bad. It's pretty good material. I like the colors. The collar's awesome. The mask is cheap, but it doesn't really matter for what I'm doing with it. It's going to be in a darker room with maybe some haze and stuff in it. It'll be at like the end of a hallway that you have to work your way through. But anyway, we're going to make him do a few things. He's going to twist back and forth, and I have somewhere I have a cotton candy gun that he's going to shoot. Here's a cotton candy gun. It has full animation even on the gun. This is a Spirit Halloween thing also. This one's pretty cool. I like this because this looks just like the prop they used in the movie. So this may even be an MGM release product. So pretty cool. So I'm going to try to make him holding this, swaying back and forth and shooting at people, turning him into cotton candy. That's what we're going to attempt. So let's get started. I've already done, as you can see, some of it, but we'll go over it. So I'm going to go back over, take this apart and go back over it, but just to show you what I've got so far. This is just a mannequin, foam mannequin head that I bought and just stuck the mask over top of it, put the collar under it. I'll glue all that together. This costume is just draped over it right now. And I went ahead, costume's pretty cool. You can even wear this as a costume. So, which I might. And then I bought some cheap clown shoes. These are just like felt, and they either go over your shoes or they're real cheap. But for a prop, you know, it's not going to be moving around, so it'll be perfect. All right, so here's the armature that I built for it. The full structure of it. It's not too difficult. It may look a little bit difficult at the moment, but it's just PVC again. He actually goes this way. I got it backwards here. Like this, and he's going to move back and forth. So this comes right out. And all that is a T, 1-inch T's with 1-inch pipe, elbow 45s. You can do this differently, but this makes it posable. And to get it to the right pose, I'll just put a screw in it. Yeah. So basically, all I do when I make an armature like this is I hold it up to my body. And I want to make it approximately my size. I'm not real tall, 5'6", but that makes a good height for props in order not to make them too big. You can always make the neck taller to make it taller and all that, or you could extend it up higher if you want. But I just kind of put them up to my body, so I can get the right measurements, approximate. So I know where the shoulders go, approximately where the head will go, because the head will come down on this pipe a little bit. And then with the arms, they're just a 45 and 2 pieces of pipe, and you just hold the pipe up to your arm, like so. Get this length. Cut it, hold it down here, get this, make it a little long so that when you put hands or gloves on it, see how that's a little bit longer than my arm? And then you cut that to whatever length you want. You can always cut it down later. See, what I'm talking about with the gloves are, I got these gloves, cheap gloves, but they're like clown style gloves. They're all puffy, they got insulation in them and stuff. So they're kind of neat. Almost looks like a Mickey Mouse hand, which could be used for that. And then with it being extra long, you could slip those over and just like duct tape this to there. I'll probably put some wire in here to make it bendable so it'll hold the gun tight. So, and I may even put a little bit of foam and stuff in there just to puff them out more. But they're pretty cool the way they are. So that's why you leave that part of the arm a little bit longer. All right, so, and then this is just, again, with this, the legs, just stand, put your pipe next to you, you cut your leg to the length of your full leg. These aren't bendable for this, he's just gonna be standing straight and twisting his body like this. So, the legs, and then of course, I actually did the base last. I went ahead and built the whole thing without the base. Like so. And then I determined from there how big I needed to make the base in order to keep them from wobbling. So the base is nothing but some 90s, some 5-way tees. And the reason for the 5-way is, now you could use a 4-way. Well, I don't know if you could use a 4. You could use a 4-way 90. But the reason for the 5-way is so that I can put a couple out to the side here. I put a cap on this side. I need to get another cap for this side. And then you got 4 directions this way, and then 2 vertical, or another vertical direction. So a 5-way there works good for that. And these are, I just order them on Amazon. They're furniture grade. They are not PVC, so you can't really glue the PVC pipe to the furniture grade fitting. It won't really hold well. So what you do with that, you just run a screw through it, which I like to do anyway, because then you can take everything back apart if you don't like it. You know, you haven't glued it, so you're not screwed over to where you got to start all over with new fittings. Take the screw out, take it back apart. And if you wanted to repurpose the stand and make it different for a whole different prop, you can salvage pieces and parts. So that's that. Let's put this back in the base. These are the legs, of course. They're going back in the base, and then I'll show you what I did up here and why. Okay, so again, that's why I made this dimension. You can figure that out on your own. I can tell you what it is, but you know, this is a full, probably 3 feet. So each one of these little pipes, I made 16 inches and just cut them all the same length. And then fit them into the PVC. And to get this dimension, you just stand with your legs kind of straight up and down. And you'll get, you know, how far apart the legs need to be. And then you can cut this bottom piece. That gives it its late stance. You can cut another one the same length for this middle, and then from there you would cut it to fit these fittings in. Now these fittings here, everything's 1-inch fitting except for these T's here. This is a 4-way T and this is a 3-way T. And the reason for that is the T, and this is also, these are 1.25 inches, okay? And then 1.25 inch pipe inside of it, and that way, I think these are 1.25 inches, yeah, 1.25 inches. You can slide this pipe down in, and it will pivot. This pipe. So that pipe slides down in, and the whole thing will pivot. Then I can stick a motor on it and turn it. And this little piece out front you see now is just a shelf to hold the wiper motor, which I bought a windshield wiper motor. I have another one to order because I don't quite like the style the way this thing mounts, but same basic concept. It's just going to mount in here. It'll be on a metal plate, which I have laying over here. Here's a metal plate. Okay, that's going to screw down to this little shelf, put a few screws in it, and then this will come up underneath it, and I'll bore a hole in it the size of this drive bolt, and it'll come up under it, and it'll come through this plate. Okay, so it'll be mounted underneath it, and you have mounting screws right there. It comes with the hardware to mount it. So you just got to find the size hole you need here. I use a unibit because it just doesn't have to be exact. It needs to be close, but it needs to be able to spin freely, so you want a little bit oversized. So right now, what I'm going to do here for now is I'm going to extend this little shelf up and connect it into here. And the reason for that is so that as the motor is running, it won't catch on any of the material. That way the material will go all the way around the outside, and it'll essentially make like a cage for that motor to where it's it won't get caught up on the material. That's a lot of problems that prop builders have to deal with. A lot of issues I've had in the past where I've kind of half-assed a prop, and it got caught up, material would get caught up in the wiper motor, and then the wiper motor would just sit there and struggle. And so we'll take these elbows here out, the 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 elbows will come out. Let's just tap them out. Okay, so that's out. And instead of having this elbow on here, let's tap, well, there's one. We're gonna put a 3-way on there, okay? And then that'll go back in there. So let's tap this one out, get another 3-way, and tap it in. Set it on the ground and tap it, so get it in there tight. And now we have this, instead of the elbows, which we can put back onto the shelf, like so, maybe. A little trouble getting it lined up just perfectly, but it will go. Sometimes you gotta force it. There we go. Tighter the better. There we go. Now that we got those replaced, now when you replace these upper 2 shoulder elbows, that might not be as easy, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna force it. Come out of there. So we take that out, place that like so, put it back in there. Actually, I'm going to leave it loose for now while I take the other side out. There we go. Take that elbow off, throw it on the ground haphazardly so that you trip over it later. Gotta make people laugh somehow. Usually my pain makes everybody laugh, right? No, just kidding. All right, and then we're just gonna, actually the best way to do that would have been, let's put it on here first, since that will come up and down. Let's put these on like so, and tap them in. Then we can force them into there. Bye-bye. Voila. Make sure that it still moves freely. These tees here, this one here is a little tricky to get just exactly centered. These 1.25 inch tees. Those are 1.25 inch, right? Not 1.5 inch, I believe. They're usually marked on them. I don't even see it. Yeah. What does this bushing say? Yes, 1.25 inch to 1 inch. Yeah, so this is 1.25 inch tee. This is a 4-way tee. This is just a a regular three-way T. And then there are bushings in here. There's an 1.25 inch by 1 inch bushing in here so that the 1 inch pipe will fit in it and hold it tight on this end. And then you have a piece of 1.25 inch pipe here, and these down here also have 1.25 inch pipe in them that I cut just flush with the top of the T, so that all that does, you don't necessarily have to put this piece in, but it helps keep this, keeps it some of the slop out of it. So this will keep coming apart like this until I get it screwed. So all right, okay, now I just have 2 more to replace, or 2 more to put in of the 3-way T's, and they will come up here. I got to cut some pipe to fit it so that we can finish our cage. So got that kind of half-assed put together. We'll tap it together on the floor, and then we'll stick it back in here, like chow. If we can get it to go. It'll be tough lining all these parts up, but I think we can do it. Here we go. Okay, just tap it all together. Okay, so the next step, I got this cage built. This little plate fits inside there nicely. The clothing goes over it. Next step's going to be to mount the wiper motor to it. And first things first, this has got one of those little balls on it, which I need to cut that off so that I can put a screw up through it. I don't have, unless I found an attaching arm for that. It's easier just to put a screw in it. So we're going to take this little piece off. I'm going to put it in the vise. I'm going to take a cutting wheel and just zip off this little metal ball here. So yeah, let's try that. Doesn't come off too easy because these are compressed on there pretty good, so you got to kind of take either a hammer or a screwdriver and tap that off of there, this little piece here, so you get it loose. So they have little splines inside of there. Can't see it. There are little splines inside of there that when you tighten it down, it grabs onto that little nut. So, put this in the vise, get a cutting wheel, and zip it off. Okay. Make sure you are wearing some kind of safety glasses, gloves when you do this. Trust me when I tell you, it is not fun having metal drilled out of your eyeball. I've had it happen. It's not fun. Okay. Just zip that out of there. Try to cut it to where the sparks are going away from you. Use an old screwdriver that you're not worried about. Use best. There you go. See that? So you get it hit on there centered, it popped right through. And you got that little bitty piece. So, okay, that's that. Now I can run a screw through it. So we'll put that back on. Okay, back to here. So we've got our wiper motor, and yeah, it's gonna go through this plate. So it's gonna mount underneath here. The wiper motor will come under it and then mount up through the top of the plate. But before I do that, I want to hold this wiper motor in place without the plate there. It's just going to come like this. And then to figure out where I want to position the wiper motor in here, this way. So, so for that, I need to figure out how it's going to spin, you know, how long I need the linkage to attach from here to here. I'm going to run an eye bolt through there. This piece of PVC that spins, I'm going to run an eye bolt through it, and then this linkage will attach to the eye bolt. This linkage will attach to another metal piece of linkage, and then that one will attach to the eye bolt. So that's where I have to figure out where to place this. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. Alright, this is what we got so far with this prop, swaying back and forth. I went ahead, mounted the wiper motor, and figured the linkage out, which I'll show you that in just a second. But he's just going to do this. He's just going to sway back and forth. He'll activate the gun, which I got to work on next. I will, let's see. So he'll go like this. It's got lights and sound on the gun. It's not extremely loud, but I think that'll be the only sound file I put on that. I'm not positive yet. So now I will show you what the linkage looks like here on this. Let's go ahead and turn it off. Well, first of all, you got the wiper motor mounted. You've got your basic power supply. This is a 5-amp power supply hooked to a speed controller. If you've seen any of my other videos, this is exactly what I do with anything I have a wiper motor on. Almost always put a speed control on it. Very simple. You just put your positive, negative wires of where it says on the back. You got your power goes to the positive, negative where it says power on the back of the speed controller. And then the other two go to the motor and they say motor positive, negative. So red and black, positive, negative, pretty simple. Very simple. Okay, so let's unplug this and I'll show you this back here. I'm going to tilt this forward, so I'm going to take this arm off. It's just dry fit. Just take these arms off, set them aside. And we'll tilt this back so we can get a good look at what we did here. And I'll take the camera off the stand. Okay, so here's what we have underneath here. We've got our wiper motor mounted to our metal plate that we put on here. The metal plate is just something I measured out and cut it with a zip tool. So I just cut it to fit inside of that little cage that I made for it. His butt cage, I guess you'd call it, because that's where his butt's gonna be. Anyway, so let's tilt it back forward. I'll show you that linkage in a minute, but here, this is just a wiper motor that is mounted to it. I simply did trial and error. I just held it in place to see if the linkage was going to work. But this is, and then I figured out where to mount the screws. There's just 3 screws that go through it, that just bolt right to that plate. This was just the cheap motor I found on Amazon. You can get these on freight props. The nice thing about the ones you get on freight props is if you're going to use a freight props controller with it, say you wanted to put a sensor on it, a motion sensor, and you want it to come on at certain times and certain intervals, so you could use a controller. And then their wiring is color coded to their controllers. But this is simple wiring. But this wiring on this is very simple. I just have 2 wires coming from the power supply. This is red and black. And my black is hooked to my black wire on my wiper motor, which is hooked to the negative grounding strap. Comes in together. It's kind of hard to see there, but they're doubled up on there. So that comes down, that's hooked to my black. So that's your negative wire. And then you hook the positive wire to whichever one you want to control whether you're fast or slow wire. You'll have on here, you'll have a positive and negative. And you'll have a fast wire and a slow wire, and then a park function. So just hook your negative, your black to black, your negative, black to your negative, and then find out which one, if you want it to go fast. Most of the time I'll hook it to the fast. This time I hooked it to the slow wire because I don't need it to go very fast at all. And then I just hook the positive to that. That's just those two wires, pretty simple. If you buy a Fright Props wiper motor, you can go to their website and they'll explain everything about how to wire your motors, because they're color coded to the wires that you're going to use. And then I have that power hooked to a speed control, which I always do. First you have your power supply that you plug into the wall. That converts it 110 to 12 volts. Hook your power supply, or your power supply, to the power side. It says power positive and negative there. So you'll hook that there, and then the other two will be, if I can focus, okay, those two wires there go to the motor. On the back it says motor power positive and negative. So you hook those two wires, you just cut a length of wire, and then that hooks to where I showed you on the wiper motor, right there. So that's your wiring. Let's tilt this back and I'll show you the linkage. Okay, so this was, again, this is all trial and error. I just basically held the wiper motor in place with my hand to get the idea of where it's going to mount on this plate. So you've got your little linkage that comes with it here. Now you can change this out to fabricate a longer piece if you wanted to, and that will determine how much movement it's going to go back and forth. So that piece, if you wanted to go much farther, you could cut a longer piece and then hook your linkage to it. But I simply, from that piece, I put a little piece of coupling nut there just as a standoff to raise that up some, because of the way it was attaching on this prop. I needed it up higher. That all has to do with how you build this whole frame and all that. If I'd have built it differently, I might not have had to use that at all. But this works just fine. You may have to adjust your heights here to get that to operate smoothly. And then there's a little piece of plate I put in here that connects to that. Make sure you have washers between every point. You gotta have a washer here, a washer here, a washer underneath, washer on the top. That way it keeps it from binding up. It'll let it pivot freely. And this is just an eye bolt I ran through it to connect to this plate. So we have three pieces of linkage. You've got this piece that comes right off the motor, and then you've got this plate and this plate, which allows it to pivot, and it'll allow it to go back and forth instead of all the way around in a circle and binding up. So let's plug that in and I will show you that. Here we have it spinning back and forth. You're going to adjust, if I want to move this, all I got to do is, you know, if it's not turning just exactly what I want, I can unscrew this and turn that on that pipe so that the body lines out properly. It looks like it's a little bit off, but it's not too bad. So that's just going to make it sway back and forth. You can see how the motor's running. This is right on the drive, this little piece here. And that just is directly driven in a circle. You can see how it's just doing a, 360 degrees in a circle, this little plate. And then from there you have connected, I have a piece of standoff, a piece of coupling nut there to hold it higher because of where it connected to that pipe actually. And then I have a little plate there as linkage, and then I have an eye bolt run through this that connects to as another part of the linkage. You could use an L bracket or whatever else you want right here instead of an eye bolt, but this worked well for me. So, and I'll probably cut these down. I'll just zip them off with a zip tool. Make sure you use washers between every connection where the bolts go through, and then use a nylock here so that the bolt doesn't unthread itself. And that's all there is to that. It's pretty simple. If you do a few props with wiper motors, it gets pretty easy. The hardest part of it is figuring out the linkage lengths. So that can be a little tricky. And that's just trial and error. I don't know specific lengths on that. It depends on the movement you want. I can move this eye bolt in and out by adjusting this nut. You see that extra thread there? And that will shorten this back. That was my intention there. I could make that somewhat adjustable by using that eye bolt instead of a L bracket. So, all right, and then all I have left to do is to dress it up. And I am going to make a trigger for the gun that he's holding. I have to make something to make this guy a trigger, to pull that trigger. So yeah, if I could hold it up straight. So I gotta have something. I think I'm gonna use a linear actuator to pull the trigger on this gun. Okay, so now we'll dress him before I work on the gun operation. That way I can get them all in costume and his arms on and in the right positions and all that before I put a trigger on that and controller and all that. So, all right. So here's the jumpsuit. Just like in the movie, this is Jumbo from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is his costume. I'm going to replace this cheap plastic head with a better one, better quality. This is just a cheap Spirit Halloween costume that comes with the mask. It's a pretty cool looking mask, but I'm gonna put a scarier one on it from Evil J. He makes one that's similar to Jumbo. He may have even based it off of that, but it's a little scarier and creepier. I think it looks way better. Anyway. Don't have to do that, that's just me. Okay, so this is his butt crack, his butt cage, so we need that to be in the back. So this will come off of here because I screwed everything together except for where the legs stand on there. So I should be able to, you know what I'm going to do with that wire there? I think I'm going to zip tie that around that one leg before. This will just have to dress it up. Dress them easier. That comes off nice. Because I did not screw that on the bottom. And I don't ever glue these fittings. I always just use screws. And if I make a mistake, I can pull it apart. So I'm going to feed this down the leg and this down the other leg somehow. It's not going to be that easy with it. So maybe I'll dress the front down. And do it this way. This, I will say, I'll give this to Spirit. This costume is fairly decent quality, and it's pretty. You know, it's not. Material's decent. It's lightweight, but I know that if it was to get wet at all, it would dry very quickly. Goes on nice and easy, and then there's just little Velcros to hold it. Covers the butt cage good. Perfectly, see? And now, this isn't going to get caught up in the motor. That's why I built that cage. Very nice. If you want to give them cheeks, you can. Not necessary. Definitely not necessary. I probably will put some cool wheels on them to bulk out his arms a little bit, but for now we're just going to do it this way. And then I'll just feed these up the sleeve, his arms, feed it up the sleeve. And I shouldn't have attached that top one. And then just tap that in there. These will probably leave loose. This isn't going to get a whole lot of movement, so you could just leave it all dry for it. I like to screw some parts to where when you pull it off, it doesn't just all come apart. This will lay nice and flat you know, because the legs come off the base is pretty flat, the body is fairly flat, so I can lay it down either in the bed of the truck or in the back seat of the truck easily. And then the other arm has got the gun on it. I like this thing. It's only $30 for that. That's a pretty good bargain, I think. Their popcorn bazooka gun is a lot more expensive than that. It's like $100, but it's bigger, more plastic from China. Okay, and then I think I left these foldable yet. Yeah. So this one I didn't. I'm gonna have to turn that a little bit because I don't like the way that's pointing. I think I want it out some more. Let's loosen up one of these screws. Let's do one here first. Again, this is the cool thing about using screws instead of glue. You can do that. You can make adjustments later on. Let's spin that a little bit. Maybe. See that? I was able to do that. And then this one, I don't know if I got screws all the way up on that one. I do. This is probably okay. And the glove I'm going to have to, I've got some thread in here, but I would probably tape this to there. If I can find some tape. I need some white. I might just invest in some white duct tape. So for now, this will do just fine. Alright, stick that up here somewhere. Yeah, I'm just going to cut a hole. These are just cheap little felt stuff, so I'll cut a hole right there on both of these. This is so thin. Yeah, it's cut a T. Like that. Give it a little bit more room. This time. And then we'll set them off again. Just go right close to the back. The heel. Make your little T crossed. That it should do. Okay, feed the wire screw, and then just feed this onto it. And same thing over here, just feed that onto the clip. See that? All right, and then we'll stand them up. Stand them back up. Just keep back in. You can see there. We'll tap them back down. A little bit. Oh, straighten the shoes out. Put his hand back on this side. Not seeing me. Just come back up. Okay. Straighten the shoes out down there. Probably don't see that. And we'll just feed this glove back on for now. That'll get taped on when I get some white duct tape. That's a little fast, so slow them down a little bit. Good thing to have a speed control. Activate the gun. here we go. One thing left to do is to put a controller on it, and I'm going to use a linear actuator to make him pull the trigger, and then I'll set his hands on there better. And that's it for today. It'll be a nice little addition to the see. Part of okay. That's what I was trying to do. That I could bulk them out, make them fatter. You know, he might look better if I bulk them out a little bit. But really, it doesn't make too much of a difference at night. You're not even gonna notice when you're walking through. But like I said in the other videos, aesthetics means a lot to some people. It does to me, which is the whole reason why I'm replacing this. So anyway, that's it for today. We'll go from there. Okay, so it's getting a little bit of binding up with this motor because the nuts were wanting to tighten up. The bottom bolt was spinning, and the nylock, the locking nut that I put on there, ended up tightening down to where it was too tight to let the motor move it. So what I did, all I did to alleviate that was to put another lock nut on top of the lower lock nut, and then just took 2 wrenches and cinch them tight against each other. So now it seems like that's not going to move too much. Looks like there might be a tiny bit of rubbing on that nut, but it's not causing an issue. Nut to nut down here. I don't know if it's actually hitting it or not, but the plate does flex a little bit because it's a little bit thinner metal than I should have used, but this is all I could find locally, so it'll work. It seems to be working pretty good now. So that's just enough movement, just about the right amount of movement that I need. I might add one more thing to it. I might put like a ball bearing down inside of here for that to rotate on top of, but I think it's rubbing the little eye bolt that I have down here is rubbing on the PVC. It needs to be held up higher. I could put another washer in there. Might try that. Okay, so I ended up putting, oops, let's see, another spacer in down here. I don't know if you can see it. Can't really see the spacer. Let me pull this off here, see what happens here. So down in here, if I could find it. Okay, I put a nut for a spacer right there. So what that's doing is holding this whole thing up. Where's you at? Where are you at? It's hard to see. Anyway, it's holding this whole pipe up off the bottom, so it's not rubbing on. It's not rubbing PVC to PVC. It's being held up by the linkage. Let me see if I can turn this camera around and show you better. This is so hard. Okay, so now the linkage here is holding this pipe. This pipe is being held up off of this piece of PVC. Before it was resting on it, and this bolt here was resting on it and rubbing, causing a little bit of friction. Is binding just a hair, and now it's running real smooth and it's not touching anything. So this nut did the job, and then again I double nutted with lock nuts here and here, both these spots, so that they don't come loose. They were tightening up on me and tightening all the way up and binding, so I put 2 lock nuts on there and tightened them against each other to keep that gap from closing. And it looks to be running very smoothly now. Put that back up here. So, oops. Looks pretty good. I wish I could. Be nice if these were just a little bit easier. These Osmo Pockets were just a little bit easier to zoom in and out. I wish they'd changed the function. Well, they may have on the next version. I don't know if they have a 4 out yet or not, but this is the Osmo Pocket 3. So, anyway, it's looking pretty decent. And, okay, I'm going to work on putting the lights on a sensor of their own so they come on and off. The lights in this motor, I think, will come on separately from the other scare sequence. So I don't know if I showed this on camera, but what I did with this gun was there's a battery compartment here. It just takes, I think it takes 2 AA batteries. Take the batteries out, and I put 2 screws, just drilled 2 little holes and drilled right into the PVC. There's a PVC coupler under here. Okay, so the pipe comes out, there's a coupler that goes down. That's just to give it more meat to grab to, for the gun to grab. Screwed that to that coupler, and then that holds the gun in place, so it's nice and sturdy. And then the glove, all I did was wrap it around, and then I sewed the fingers together. And then the trigger is a linear actuator. It's a little small linear actuator, so it's all electric. I didn't want to run pneumatics on this because that's just another thing I'd have to run, another line I'd have to run, so I already have electric going. And on the end of this little linear actuator, I tied a piece of monofilament fishing line to the trigger. I drilled a little hole in the trigger right at the base, right at the bottom of the trigger. I drilled a little hole there and fed the line through and tied it. Now I think I'm going to put something up here to hold this line in place. I think what I'll probably do is just like glue on a little tiny piece of straw, feed the wire through it that way, because it tends to want to pull down under the hand and get bound up. So, but that'll be after the fact. That after we get all this finished, we may do that. Okay, so I got this fed up through the clothing. Trying to grab me. And then we'll just dry fit this onto here. Where's my little rubber mallet? Okay, and then we can just pull this up to where we want the gun. Now, when I go to run this Halloween or whatever, I'll probably put a screw in there to hold it in place. That's actually, I may do that because it'll be stored in my basement. Today's my birthday. I forgot. People keep messaging me happy birthday. My niece Marty Ray, who's named after me, Martin Raymond, just sent me happy birthday. Love them so much. Okay. Get the birthday wishes out of the way. And then the other hand is just sheer. It's just got a glove on it. And the gloves, all I did was I fed them on. These are pretty cool little gloves that I got. They're already like sort of foam filled. They're like Mickey Mouse hands. They work well as a clown glove. Cheap, I don't know, somewhere between $6 and $9 on Amazon. But and then I just fed it onto the pipe and duct tape it with white duct tape. And we'll feed that up this sleeve on the other side and dry fit that one on. Okay. Again, this can be posed however you want, and then later on we could come back and just run a screw through there. So this one I'm probably just going to have facing downward. Something like that. Do some of these Velcros up in the back. You don't have to do them all just yet. And let's find that wire. There it is. There's the wire. Okay. That goes to the gun. That triggers the gun. So we have one set of wires over here that are not connected yet. Those will go there. Okay, and that is that. Let's plug it in, see how it works before I put the head on it. Plug in the power supply. Okay, so I got it running. I got this on this sensor. Got it all hooked into, if I can see it, Trike Props controller, Peekaboo Junior. It has a motion sensor. This motion sensor activates, all it's doing is activating this linear actuator I put on it. It's making it go in and out, however, how I programmed it, however I decided to push the buttons and make it go in and out. So I have that just strapped to the arm. I got it run through a little piece of straw to hold the, right there, a little piece of straw. So there's just a piece of monofilament going from that cylinder up to the trigger, where I drilled a hole in the little trigger and ran the monofilament through it. He's going a little fast right now, but I have a speed controller on it. I can slow him down. There we go. You try to keep it a little fast. If you go too slow, essentially what you're doing with the pulse width modulator, which is speed controller, is lowering the voltage. You lower the voltage too much, any little bit of restriction, he'll get bound up and the motor will stop turning. So you got to make sure you have a little bit of movement. Okay, so that's that. I also have a motion sensor here tied in that activates the wiper motor, which makes him turn back and forth. And that's on a 1 minute delay. So it'll go for 1 minute. If it doesn't, and then it'll stop, and then it senses motion again, it'll trigger it again. So 1 minute's quite a bit of time, and chances are it'll constantly be going with people running in and out constantly. But if you get a lull with nobody going through, at least it'll stop and it won't be drawing power from everything else. So let's put this down. See how it looks that way. Activate this motion sensor again and make sure that it'll operate with the sleeves down so everything's covered up. This was pretty fun to build. It was not a difficult build, but there's a lot of tweaking I had to do. Like the wiper motor, the linkage had to be tweaked back and forth to make sure it didn't bind up. So, but other than that, I like it. I'm going to change the mask out to an Evil J's mask once I get it. It's a similar mask. It's not the exact same one. This is Jumbo the Clown from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And he has one that looks very similar, only more menacing. And it's a much better full piece mask. This is just a cheap plastic Spirit Halloween, you know, half mask. Doesn't look bad, and it definitely would withstand weather, but it's going to be in a tent anyway, so it doesn't really have to stand the weather much. All right, we're going to turn the lights off and close the door and see what it looks like. All right, let's make sure the lights are facing him first, and let's turn off the light. See what we have. Let's turn off the garage light above him. I think it looks pretty cool. Let's fix his collar a little bit. Well, this is going to be a little different anyway when I get the other mask. I have a black light set up too, but there's not much on him that's blacklight reactive, but it will help maybe his hair's a little bit glowy. Let's turn that black light off to see what kind of effect that actually does have on him. Here's a black light actually facing toward him. It makes the red stand out good too. Oh, definitely, it definitely helps. The gloves are black light reactive, so that'd be cool to have a black light in the room also. I think it looks great. Let's trigger it again. There we go. I don't have a extension cord for the black light, so I'm going to just hold it with my hand. I think he looks good. Gun's activating on its own. I might want to lift the arm up a little bit. That's just dry fit, so that'll just pull up. Let's see. I don't want to break him though. My luck. Yeah, he's gonna do nicely. This has been East Point Necropolis with another fun build. Please like and subscribe, comment, criticize, whatever you like to do. I take all of that. So, we will see you on the next build.